just let's start me talking, and then a few more will join. But today we have the fourth 𝗬𝗃 dialogue about why Zero Trust and DevSecOps are critical to secure access. And then we're talking about access to systems, access to data, access to organizations, to, well, literally in a broader concept, secure access. That is what we want. And as we were joking, and for example, our colleague 𝗭𝗏𝗿𝗀𝗀 has been able to get his hands on this 𝗬𝗏𝗿𝗀 data. It's even more needed nowadays than at least we realized ever before in the Netherlands. So I thought also, for your information, one of the telcos in the Netherlands got hacked, and a huge amount of data has been leaked, and it's big in the news that they should do something. There should be claims, etc., etc. Well, if we are looking at the 𝗬𝗃 project, we have said from the very beginning, DevSecOps is one of the key things that we need to get better in place. So not only DevOps, which is kind of the development process we are after nowadays, but DevSecOps, security included in the development cycle. And we, in the project, well, together with most of the technical partners, have been assessing like, hey, but where in the cycle do we contribute? And secure access is definitely on the development side, because here is where people can include code into the production environment or in any other sensitive process, as well as the monitoring or the operational side. When we have the software, when we have the solution ready, we are able to give clients, customers, employees access to the systems, access to the solutions. And in the end, and it, at least from my point of view, it always sounds so simple, like just give people access to the right information, give the right people access. But it turns out to be so complicated after all those years. That's proven by this kind of hack. It's proven by the whole info stealer business that we do see at the moment. And this is definitely a space where we need to have better and new solutions. So that is where and why we scheduled this topic for today. Why Zero Trust and DevSecOps are critical to secure info, to secure access, with two speakers. Also, that is a new element we have at the table today. So 𝗭𝗏𝗿𝗀𝗀𝗀, I'm not sure whether I pronounce it correct, but from 𝗭𝗏𝗏 Networks from Italy. 𝗭𝗏𝗏 Networks is a partner in the 𝗬𝗃 project, but as well, you can also notice from the diagram, the number of partners is limited, and the number of solutions that we need to have is really huge. So one of the ambitions of the project is to, let's say, connect also with close partners to build a stronger network. And 𝗭𝗏𝗃𝗀𝗀 is one of the partners of 𝗓𝗏𝗂. And I'm very proud to have Fabio here today. Fabio Bordinho, I think is from 𝗭𝗏𝗃𝗀𝗀, and he will talk second. And we start with a short presentation by 𝗭𝗏𝗏. I would like to challenge everybody. If you have questions, if you want to discuss something, we are with a small group, which has a good opportunity to be more interactive than if we have a large group, because then it becomes more broadcasting. So I would like to give the floor to 𝗭𝗏𝗏, and to give the floor to 𝗭𝗏𝗏 to take over the screen and, well, introduce yourself and come up with your intervention, and then thereafter we continue with Fabio, and then we do some discussion. Amazing, 𝗭𝗏𝗏, to have the 𝗬𝗃 logo also in the presentation.
Okay, guys. So welcome everyone to be here, and I'm 𝗭𝗏𝗏, as Marcus stated, and I'm a lead software engineer here in Opel. And today I will discuss about, as stated, hackers don't always break in. They exploit users with too much access. And Of course, WIS will be like a zero trust and identity-centric security for DevSecOps environments. So we obsess over securing our code, our, for example, pipelines and our infrastructure. But the biggest risk is often much, much simpler, that people have too much access and nobody notices until something, goes really wrong. So in the next maybe 15 minutes, I will walk you through why that happens and what's in the industry is wrong and how to fix it, of course. Okay, so what we will cover in 15 minutes. So the first is why the DevSecOps access paradox. So the speed versus security and why the tension is real, of course. The second one is the VPN, the legacy perimeter. So how the encrypted tunnel works. Of course, it would be like super high level and access, unmonitored access. Third, the identity gap. And fourth, the zero DNA as an answer. And then our answer, of course, I'm from Oplon. And so how does the DNA architecture work in Oplon and Oplon Secure Access, that is our solution for this kind of problem. So here is the tension every DevSecOps teams lives with. Developers need fast access, as stated in the first square. So they need to test often and iterate continuously. But first, they need access fast. And granting broad access creates enormous attack surface right now, of course, because they need to grant many people and maybe overnight also. And all developers are in the architecture. I would say like ancient architectures are often privileged entities. And credentials, for example, never expire. And shared service accounts are used like everywhere. So these are, of course, the easier targets for an attacker. So the attacker, of course, wants to attack these developers to have broad privileges to all data infrastructure. So as it is stated in the second square, log-live, the credential never expire, and often tenants and managers, often they forget about credentials. And also legacy applications and protocols, because if you're using VPNs or something like this, you can exploit, for example, some sort of protocols like RDP, some very ancient and legacy protocols like Telnet or whatsoever, and you can exploit it. And of course, and by the thing that overprivileged identities become the easiest targets, developers can be, of course, used as a mean to access the IT infrastructure. Yeah, VPN encrypted, but does not mean secure, because encryption, of course, is not the same as security, like 100%. So this is the fundamental problem with VPNs, and they grant access to the network, not to a specific resource. You can grant access to some particular, you can segment your network, but it's tough to segment your network. It's very, very tough. So once you're in, you're completely in. There is no granularity, no continuous verification, no, for example, real identity awareness. So who is using the VPNs? I don't know, actually, who is using it. So in the end, the VPNs authenticates your device, not you as a person. And also, and this is like very important for contractors or third-party companies that need to access your IT infrastructure, is also a massive friction point. So you need to install broadly the client for the end user, for the contractors to access your internal resources. And that's massive friction, massive. You can, I mean, the help desk will be like overcrowded. So onboarding takes days. Okay, this is the title is a little bit hilarious. Late Neolithic. Identity is not the main character. So this is how legacy VPNs works. So there are static policies. Identity is the perimeter, because identity is your organization LAN. So the perimeter is the firewall, is the office building's Ethernet jack. So the problem is that boundary, in this example, no longer exists in a meaningful way. Developers work from home, and code can run in cloud environments, or even can run in your self-managed on-prem environments, but remotely. And contractors, of course, connects from anywhere. So the network edge is completely dissolved. I mean, the VPN, where the identity is the perimeter, is nowhere here. It's completely gone. So the only reliable boundary left is knowing exactly who or what. If it is like a human or a machine, of course, because machine are often taken as a second-class citizen, but they are not at all, because machines also are target, not only developers and people. So exactly who or what is making a request? So instead of asking, for example, is this machine inside our network? No. Is this machine or this identity authorized to access a particular resource? So this is the zero trust practical principles for DevSecOps. So there are 4, even more sometimes, core principles. Zero trust, the core idea, of course, zero trust means nothing is trusted by default. So neither user, neither devices, neither networks, not even your internal LAN. So you must prove the 4 W. So who you are, what your device you are on, what you're trying to access, and why you're allowed to access right now. The second one is the least privilege, actually enforced. Users got what we need, only when we need it, not like static permission or static airbag policies. So permission can decay. So that means that access is granular and time-bound. This is very important, time-bound and revocable. The third one is the pillar, I would say, of the zero trust principles. That is, identity is the new perimeter. So networks are porous, of course. Identity are the choke point, 100%. So strong identity verification. You need, of course, MFA as a basis. Continuous check, not only one login and that's it, and then you're gone. So users plus device plus context evaluated together, hold together, form your identity. And as is stated before, access is conditional or revocable. That's so important, but I mean, and it's super easy in my opinion, but for some sort of circumstances, the legacy VPNs and I mean, it's very tough to onboard people, to revocate access to some particular resources. So how often that addresses every risk vector? This is so the problem on the left, what it is overprivileged developers, long-lived shared credential, legacy app and protocols. As I said before, at 𝗭𝗲𝗶𝘁𝗀𝗀, Telnet. I mean, the end user, the hackers can exploit the protocols with VPNs. The tunnel is encrypted, but the protocol is encrypted inside the channel, but the end user see it as a plain text. So if the malware runs inside the laptop of the end user, it can infect the IT infrastructure, the whole LAN. So overtrusted VPNs and contractor access friction. Last but not last at all, no audit trail / visibility. The solution is to treat identity as a first-class citizen, automated credential rotation for the endpoints, because it's very important to rotate credentials, to not store anything statically. And of course, clientless browser access with full session control. So the tenant can manage all the online stuff that is acting and that is working inside the corporate network. So pair up per identity tunnels also, because some power users needs to use, for example, 𝗏𝗏 client still. And of course, onboarding will take minutes. So you don't need to install any client at all. And the solution, of course, another pillar is to use session recording, monitoring, and of course, CM integration. But session recording is like the basis of NIS2 or whatsoever, DORA or other compliances. So this is like a super dummy example of how it works as zero-DNA architecture. And this is how Upland Secure Access works. So we have at the left the edge of the end user, so the end user laptop. In the middle, we have the authentication authorization phase, which is done in a web services in the cloud. And then there is the end user, sorry, it's a repetition. It's not end user edge, it's the company's network. So the company edge, sorry about the mistake. So as is stated below, there is the cloud of the of the corporate network and the corporate LAN. So we have two use cases. So the first one is clientless. So the user can use the browser and that's it. To connect to what? To file manager, legacy HTTP application, SSH, 𝗭𝗲𝗏𝗁𝗀, and also to HTTP application in the cloud, because of course we use federation as a mean to address the end user as a single identity. With the client, with the Upland client, we can address to the and target to those kind of people that need to access to use the 𝗏𝗏 client, so need to access, for example, databases or something like this. So maybe power users will use Upland client and can access natively HTTP, SSH, RDP, and so on with a secure tunnel. But it is not broad, the privilege with Upland client. It is just machine to machine. So just per application, per database, and that's it. So there is no lateral movement like it is in a VPN, for example. And it's like very important. No lateral movement at all. And all recorded and all, I mean, it's logged. We go to the almost the last one. So how Secure Access covers all personas. So we have two use cases, the clientless access and the client-based access, as I said before. The clienteless access covers MFA, SSO, so single sign-on, or the SAML or OEDC integration. So it can do like a lot of federations broadly. SSA, 𝗖𝗿𝗶𝘁𝗀𝗀𝗃 telnet in the browser. That's very important for all the contractors. And there is all the audit trail and all the session recorded. So you can like browse and you can see what the end user actually has done at that particular minute. And there is no way that the end user can skip this, because it is accessing in the, in the Open Secure Access Gateway as a single point, and then redirected to the right resource. So it is all monitored and logged completely. So you can just see like a video, normal video, what the end user is doing in SSH or in RDP or whatsoever. So contractors on day one, no IT ticket. It's just super easy. Just need to sign up. The tenants assign you some resources, and that's it. No VPN clients to install and maintain. As I said, session recording and full audit trail. Yeah, that's ideal for contractors, external auditors, or partners. The client-based access is micro-segmented per application. So there are tunnels like end-to-end, and only authorized resources are reachable. And again, users in this use case work with their own application, but still their own identity. And so, yeah, the takeaway is simple. So Zero Trust is not just a product. It's, I would say, like a mindset shift that starts with identity.
Thank you very much, Luca. Great talk.
Thank you.
And I think some time ago you mentioned most of your clients were in the medical or in the health sector. Was that right?
Yeah, I mean, our clients are healthcare, banks, and universities, like medical, like 60–70%, and like university and banks, the other 30–40%. Yeah.
Excellent. Really good.
Yeah, because for example, hospitals, for example, have a lot of contractors, third-party workers that need to access the all the IT infrastructure of the hospitals, and of course need to be tracked everything. And I mean, there are like super policies that need to be enforced, of course, because there are personal data. So where you live, and so on, and so on, and so on. Where the user live, where, I don't know, the blood, or I mean, all the stuff that you can do in the hospital. Of course, it's, yeah, needs to be protected. Same way in the bank, same way in the university. A lot of personal data.
Yes. Very good. Well, let's continue the discussion after the talk by Fabio. Fabio, are you ready?
Yes, I am. So let me pull up the slides.
And I think we coordinated this very nicely. So you can probably skip half. No, I really like to deepen on this zero trust element, because that is, I think that is key to understand, and have another perspective or repetition on the concept is essential to, let's say, go deeper and start to understand what it really means if you want to move from conceptual and the mindset to implementations, as also Luca mentioned. But Fabio, the floor is yours.
Yes, exactly. So the idea with this part of the talk is to see how zero trust is actually applied to access, specifically in the first step of access, which is authentication. And I'll explain why it is important that we apply zero trust to authentication, and how it can solve, most of the unsolved challenges when it comes to access management. So just to give a brief overview, 𝗭𝗲𝗃𝗀𝘀 is a company that focuses on multi-factor authentication. The solution was created in 2011 in Sweden, Gothenburg. And then in 2019, the company has been acquired by 𝗬𝗏𝗃 in Taiwan. And now we're currently back in Europe, based in The Hague in the Netherlands. The idea is since the beginning, so since 2011, to adopt a zero trust access policy. And why is it important for authentication? The reason it's simple, because authentication is the first step to allow the user to access certain data or to do transactions. And it's simply the first step that everybody in the world, regardless you're 16 or you're 80, you will face the authentication part. So it's
Fabio,
really,
I'm
yes.
not sure whether you are shifting slides, but we're still on the opening slide.
Not yet. I'll
Okay.
get there. Thank you, though. So this was just to say that authentication is the first part. And authentication, it's also fundamental to solve the biggest challenge that we haven't solved yet, which is phishing. Because unfortunately today, phishing is still the reason to 80 to 90% of all the cyber attacks. But why is it the case? Well, because today, phishing, it's not anymore about stealing your credentials and using them directly to access, because that would not be enough. Today, if you only have username and password, it's not enough. So we have implemented multiple factors, as the MFA says. Today, hackers exploit other points, like they make proxy-based attacks. So they try to do session hijacking, or they use malwares to steal your credentials without you noticing that, or they try to exploit other external vulnerabilities. And as a fact, by 2025, phishing is the primary method for initial intrusion in cyber attack. But what does that mean? Is that phishing is not anymore the reason for stealing your credential, but it's the reason for other types of frauds that then impact the user's behavior. So we start from phishing, and then we start a push bombing attack or an approved push payment, or we use your credentials and to send you to fake websites, like for example in 𝗏𝗏𝗃𝗀𝘀 case, and then you can just input your credentials, and the credentials, instead of being put into the correct website, are on the wrong website. So phishing has changed. Like all our solutions to fight phishing have changed, also phishing itself have changed. So what is the problem? Why don't we stop phishing? How's that possible? We tried for decades and we haven't managed to. Well, first of all, because we still use username and password. So again, this is not the main reason for phishing, but it's still the first vulnerability. So we leave the door open for the hacker to steal something that then he can use to initiate an attack. So ideally, I steal your credentials, I try to access your bank account, and then I start sending push notification until eventually you approve because you're frustrated or you don't understand what's going on. So this is the first problem. The second problem is that the hackers, as a consequence, can authenticate from any device anywhere in the world. So there is no session control. There is not binding between the devices that can access your bank account. So as a result, if I can use my laptop or my phone just by having your credential to start authenticating into your bank account, then yeah, I leave you vulnerable to push bombing, for example. There's no origin binding most of the times. So we are vulnerable to put our credentials in fake websites, or we're vulnerable to man-in-the-middle attacks or other sort of attacks. They do not verify the presence of a malware. So as I said before, hackers today, with a malicious link, they install a malware into your device, then you input your credentials, they steal them, or they steal your session cookie, for example, and you don't even notice that. You don't know that they're doing that. And I think last couple of days ago, I read a report that said that most of the companies, or most of the people in general, they don't notice that they were attacked, that their profiles were breached for more than 2 weeks on average. After 2 weeks, you understand that your account has been breached. And fifth problem is that all the solutions have a reactive approach to security. So there is no risk assessment. Most of the time, we take the breach and then we adapt to the problem. So, of course, how can we fight all this? How can we solve this problem? Well, simply adopting a zero trust approach. So what does zero trust tell us? Is that we have 5 different pillars that we can use to, as Luca said before, to initiate this approach of never trust, always verify, to really secure our environments, our bank accounts, our company accounts, whatever. And those are, identity and access management. So have a strong identity and access controls. Devices, which means that we not only have to have strong identity and access control, but we don't have to trust our device because, for example, our phones, our laptops can be compromised. So we need to check the device health and securing the device itself. Then we have the network. So network, it's about checking what the traffic and connections within an organization environment are, making sure that it is something that can be trusted. So there is no fake website, as the example that we made before. So we need to make sure that our connections are stable on a secure website, for example. Applications and workloads. So how do we run our applications? What are the security measures that we use to protect our applications? And finally, data. So we need to be able to protect the sensitive data with, for example, encryption, classification, labeling, and different type of methods. But the problem is that most of the times all these frameworks are very nice, very beautiful and on point, but usually they are quite hard to put in practice. So as a consequence, the National Cyber Institute of Taiwan made 3 pillars out of those 5 to actually implement zero trust in your organization. And what they said is, okay, we have to focus on these 3 pillars, which are ID verification. So have a strong, robust MFA, like, for example, FIDO certified or UAF solution. We need to have a device verification, and we need to include risk assessment into our network and our solutions. So then when we read that, these 3 pillars came out in 2020. And when we at 𝗭𝗲𝗄, we read those pillars, we said, okay, we are on the right track since 2011, because those are exactly the way and the 3 pillars that we're following since the beginning. So now I want to show you how we have practically translated the zero trust pillars into authentication to make sure that only the correct people, the correct users, are actually accessing your bank accounts or your corporate account. So we said, first pillar, ID verification. So we have a problem, as we mentioned before. We're still using username and passwords. Somewhere, even though we have FIDO, we still rely on some username and passwords or some credentials stored somewhere to at least initiate the authentication. So in our case, we said, okay, well, the way is to use non-distributed credentials. So we do not have anything stored anywhere that can be conducted to a physical person. So in this way, we eliminate completely the playground for the hackers to steal any useful information. So if you don't know anything about me, you don't know any personal information, I don't even have a username and a password, how do I identify then? How can I authenticate? Well, the authentication and the identity is bound to the device itself. So by doing that, it means that we create we call it device fingerprint. So each device, it's unique, has a unique set of characteristics that can make a unique fingerprint of each device, meaning that my personal phone is different from my work phone, although I'm the same person who uses both devices. So if I want to access my personal bank account, I will only be able to do that with my personal phone and not my work phone, unless I decide to associate both devices. So this allows us to say, okay, this is indeed the correct person because you just use biometrics to access the banking application as well as the authenticator. But then the real fact that make us understand, okay, it's you, it's your device, meaning that we only trust your device as it is at the time of the scan. If, for example, there is a malware, as the problem number 2 states, the device is not the same anymore. Something has changed, so we cannot trust it. So we not only do not trust anybody different from your biometrics, but we also do not trust any device that looks slightly different from yours. So sorry, I didn't mention. Of course, each device is also linked between each other, meaning that only if I want to access my company account or my bank account, I will only be able to do that only via my laptop or my phone. And that means that simply, if I am a hacker on the other side of the planet, and with my laptop, I have your credentials, let's say, because the bank still uses them, and I just plug them in to try to access, you will not even receive a notification, because the idea is simple. If the hacker does not have your laptop or your phone, they cannot even start the authentication because the identity is different. So they really need to have your hardware, phone in hands. And as a last point, risk assessment, we said, okay, we need to stop taking the hit and react. We need to have a embedded risk assessment that is able to spot new threats. And this is connected to the malware presence assessment that I mentioned before. So every time you try to authenticate, we need to make sure that your device is safe. The risk assessment checks your device and says, okay, there is no malware, the phone is not rooted or jailbroken, it's indeed the same exact fingerprint as the associated device, hence we will allow access. And as a second step in the risk assessment process, we also have the 2-channel structure and the sign what you see, meaning that the authentication happens on a second separate channel because we cannot trust the same connection channel that we have between our application and the server of the bank or of our company. We need to have a separate channel that cannot be attacked, that it's encrypted. And in the end, all the informations of the login and the bank can be reviewed by the user. And this is important because if we were to trust the first channel and we have, let's say, a man-in-the-middle attack and somebody changes their, let's say, the amount of money that I want to send or changes something in my login process, then I need to be able myself as a user to see that. Because part of the zero trust, I believe that it's not only about trusting what we cannot touch, but we also need to not trust the user itself. The user needs to be able to review completely what they're doing, because only then they will be aware of the fact that something has changed if an attack occurred. I always remember when I went to one conference last year, there was a company making a presentation and they were saying, oh yes, we had this case of our client who tried to access. He was, having a lot of problems trying to access to their company account. And then he said, oh yes, it was hard, but eventually I managed to. And of course, they were suffering from an adversary in the middle attack. So all the data in the end were stolen. But the problem is that we cannot trust the end user either. We need to make sure that the end user is also aware of what they're doing. So to recap, how to apply zero trust in authentication? 3 main pillars. Verify the identity with strong MFA without using any personal information, so nothing to steal. Control the device, making sure that only the correct devices can access the bank account or your company account, and they can access that if they're healthy. Second of all, control where the authentication happens. So it cannot happen in the same channel. We cannot trust the connections between servers and applications, but also make sure that the user is aware of what they're doing. Only in this way we will be able to mitigate all the different risks that come from the cyberspace and the correlated frauds. So this was all for today. And thank you very much for listening. I think I was quite fast or perfect in time. I don't know.
Perfect in time. Nothing to object. And I think you both took exactly the same number of minutes. So in that sense, it was also a perfectly balanced presentation.
Great.
So thank you very much, Fabio. Well, one quick question from my side to clarify and just to understand. And thereafter, I definitely would like to open the floor for more questions from colleagues joining. So I think I've quite well get the idea that you definitely not rely on credentials. But how do you onboard a device representing my responsibilities or me using that device to make a transaction? You need to have the onboarding then in one way or the other, right?
Yes. So usually what happens, there are different ways to do that, but let's say the easier way is in the moment, let's say a company decides to use our solution, or they decide to, or a bank decides to use our solution. Simply they would have to indicate what the device is, and let's say the easier way is to by the time you use our client app, then for the first time the client app scans your device and make a fingerprint of it, and then in that moment, in that specific moment, your let's say your user account is linked to that device. So there is not really a lot of steps to do, but it's rather, okay, guys, from today we use this, access your application, and everything will become automatic. Alternatively, you also have, let's say, a dedicated portal where then, I guess the identity and access manager would have to have each person to associate the device either via QR code or via a like a one-time code that changes every 5 minutes. And by then you have also the scan of the device, and from that moment on, you don't need anything anymore.
To what extent is this comparable to using the passkey? Is that also a implementation of this approach?
So so we do have a solution that it's together with FIDO and hence using passkeys. The baseline idea of 𝗖𝗿𝗂𝘀 is to avoid the reliance on any type of credential, which also means private keys stored in the secure element, especially because when it comes to passkeys, the big criticism of passkeys is that because they are synchronized across devices in clouds, hackers can exploit all the external vectors that are connected to the cloud to then sync the passkey directly on their device. So if I'm a hacker, I exploit some cloud vulnerabilities, and let's say, pass me the term, even though it's not correct, download your passkey on my phone, and then I can access all your information. So we tend to avoid it in our solution, but we work together with FIDO to, let's say, as a fallback mechanism.
Yeah, but still you can use, like, for example, YubiKey or something like this. I mean, hardware tokens to store data. I mean, for the end user, for the common end user, like like 99% of the cases would be like they use their phone or I don't know, their laptop to interface with web authentication and so on. So
Yeah.
I understand that it is like mostly a corporate login that we
Yeah.
use is like YubiKey or something.
Yeah, no, indeed. I mean, so our idea is to make a substitute of a hardware token in a software version. But
Okay,
indeed,
got it.
for
Got
when it goes about companies, when it goes about maybe high level, also bank directors, they still rely on the YubiKey most of the times.
Yeah, I got it.
Great. Well, any questions? Elio, Aitor, Octavio, Adrian? You also can talk if you want. So
Yes, I can now talk. So, question for Luca.
Yeah.
When you showed your setup, is that something that is run on premise at a hospital, for example? Because all the monitoring that you can do for all the traffic that goes there, you don't want to store that somewhere, let's say, externally accessible. So can you run this on premise?
Yeah, the gateway and all the data that is recorded is inside the gateway. All the authentication authorization phase is logged inside the cloud, and then all the data, for example, SSH, RDP, and all the, I would say like the fat data, because they are like videos, so it's pretty much heavy. They are stored inside the corporate network, so the client network, yes. And therefore, also, the end user can install the wall, so the customer can install the wall, so Open YAM and also the IAM and also the gateway inside the corporate network. Yeah, of course, it's a little bit higher in cost, but it can be done.
Okay, thank you. And one more question, maybe, because if I understood correctly, your solution allows to log in via the browser and then access all of the elements. But would your device, once you've logged in via the browser, allow, for example, SSH or all the other things that you might rely on directly to connect through, because that will not go through that browser session, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. I understand it correctly.
I mean, the end user, for example, power user or something, can still use the fake client, but they are like a very minority of all the end users. For example, like 1 to 3% we use the Open client, and the vast majority we use just the browser to log in and to use, for example, SSH or whatsoever. Because you will have like all the data like completely logged, all the session recording, and instead using the Open client, you will have also just the trail in, for example, the end user has logged in and has accessed this particular resource, and that's it, because it's in nosy layer that is way lower than the layer 7 of HTTP. That's the technical part of it. Yeah, but still, the end user can reach just one machine, and the end user and everything like is logged. So yeah.
Thank you.
Oh, Adrian is. Thank you very much.
Adrian, if you want, you can talk, Adrian.
Yes, thank you. No, maybe one very interesting presentations, as I put information in the chat. Thank you very much. Once, maybe not simple questions to Fabio. Did you analyze the risk of various mobile applications which are running or user mobile devices with undocumented features like stealing informations, or the applications which are, let's say, change changing mobile devices into residential proxy. You can repeat communication. You can copy various data which are used on a mobile phone or sent from a mobile phone. Did you take it into account when you prepared, let's say, this kind of fingerprint of mobile devices?
So again, I'm not very technical myself, but so then probably I don't know if I can answer in an exhaustive manner, but what I can tell you is in terms of applications, usually if an app is installed via App Store or Play Store or certified stores, they should not have trust issues. But if, for example, an application is installed via a browser, for example, and not via a trusted party, then we would consider that, we would flag it as with like additional care. And if something changes after the download of the app, then we can indeed spot it. Now, if you ask me if we can go directly inside the app and see what the app is doing with the device, that one I cannot answer at the moment myself. So I would need to ask. I would need our product development team. But if the application changes something within the device, then we definitely see that.
Oh, good. Good. I rather thought about it that other applications can try to copy or to use the fingerprint you defined, yes, and let's say to repeat the communication. And there are unfortunately hundreds of such applications or official, let's say, Samsung, LG store. We know that they don't have idea how to remove the applications which are, let's say, changing the mobile devices or of users into, let's say, some kind of zombie phones, or use the communication channels also for, let's say, DDoS attacks, and those are the applications which unfortunately it's much more than it was some couple of months ago. So this is why I would like to ask, when you think about risk, let's say, scenarios, do you also take into account that other mobile applications can, let's say, spy what is done on a mobile phone, can spy and try to repeat the communications, can try to analyze the patterns which are used from the mobile phone? So this only for, let's say, as a, let's say, idea for also the area for risk analysis.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, I can ask about it, and maybe I can get back to you via email if you're interested. I just send you, what we do in terms of that.
Yes, I will take care that you got linked, and you can follow up on this question.
Yeah.
I think that can be a very interesting combination together with Orange. Maybe another question from my side. So I tend to think a little bit visually usually, but this was an article I found 2 days ago in my LinkedIn channel. So a man could still work for an hour after entering codes in his Authenticator app for 7 hours. And my colleagues can probably confirm that although I'm in the security business, I can get so frustrated by, for example, you need to make a quick payment and the device wants you to update something, or Authenticator apps that are not easy to migrate from your old mobile to a new mobile, and it takes you an hour to get updated. So how do you guys, and a question for both of you, how do you look at these human factors? Because in the end, most of the security risks comes after too strong security measures and people start to find workarounds and, let's say, share content just through Gmail or, well, maybe nowadays not on USB sticks, but in very weak secure approaches. And this has been, at least from my side, for long, and I will keep trying to set up my wishes and to find ways to implement exactly what you guys were showing, because I think you're completely right on the problem statement, on the solutions, but can we make it simple such that people are not even thinking about to take the other way around or take? So my question, how do you look at the human factors in this challenge? Luca first, because you started the presentation.
Yeah, okay. That's a super fair question, Mark. Super fair. And I mean, that's an open issue, I would say, an open incident about all the authentication, authorization phase of the whole world, I might say. So, I mean, there are progresses, but still, in the end, for example, talking about web authentication, that is, of course, like the RFC standard way to include tokens and YubiKey and so on. I mean, still, if the end user got stolen the device, or the credential gets stolen, or they just forgive the hardware token whatsoever, they will need to have some PIN code or something, like an hash code or something. It needs to be stored inside, I don't know where, maybe in the device, in other devices, and it acts as a recovery. So my pitch for the future is having, of course, like centralized identity governance, like European identity card, for example. In the end, we are going toward that in the end, because any type of application, in my opinion, that's my opinion, of course, in the end, needs to trust who you are, who exactly you are. So your username, your credential can be stored, of course, maybe in the, I mean, in Europe, inside the European identity card infrastructure, and can be imported, for example, can be used somewhere else via some, for example, federation processes, like it is done right now, but it is not broadly used. Because in the end, if you forget something, for example, if someone steals your phone, someone steals your token, I mean, that's when the things get tough. I mean, you need to meet the people. You need to meet the persona that forget that device. In some way, you need to get in contact. And that's where I mean, it's an open issue, I would say. I would say it's not yet. I mean, for example, corporate users, the tenant can, for example, say, okay, this end user, this user that I own just got stolen the phone, so I can, for example, reset or something or whatsoever, and the end user can again rely on that's identity. But still, you need to meet. You still need to meet or to get in touch in some way, and that's where the things get weird and tough. So it is an open incident that maybe might be resolved in 5 years, 10 years. I don't know.
I hope. Maybe
that's my guess. That's my guess, of course.
Yeah, but I really liked also your statement. Like, in the future, I really wish to make this change. Maybe Fabio, can you add on this? Or also to conclude, especially for reasons of time. I really like the conversation, but
Yeah. So, well, in our case, what we let's say, just to keep it brief, you made a couple of examples. The things that people worry the most when it comes to access. It's okay. What if, for example, I have something to update? Would it be such a pain in the neck to authenticate? Or what if I lose my device? Then how do I enroll? Do I need to take ages to re-enroll? And I agree with all what Luca has said. Now, if I want to try to put it more on the practical way, the way we try to do it is, okay, well, first of all, in terms of updates, there are two options. If you have an application that it's already integrated into, for example, the banking app, then it follows the updates of the banking app. If in terms of your device own update, like Apple iOS updates, then there are certain, let's say, thresholds that you cannot go out of. So if your software version is too old, then you need to update in order to authenticate. Otherwise, it's not safe. But if it's the last version, it's okay. You can still authenticate. It's still safe enough. When it comes to instead you lost your device, again, we try to make it pretty simple. So if you lost your device, it should be quite easy, as in, okay, I contact the bank or I contact my corporate IT and say, okay, listen, I lost my device, forget it, let's enroll a new one. And that's it. And so access is not bind anymore to the old device, but to the new one. Meaning that if anybody now tries to access with your old phone, first, well, he needs to have your face, but let's say he can bypass that. Now he will not be able to access anymore.
Very good. Very good. Thank you very much. I would like to continue for longer, but I know also people are under time pressure, probably yourself as well. I would really like to thank you both Luca, also as an AppTake partner of the consortium, Fabio as a partner of the partners, so as a highly appreciated network partner in the AppTake consortium. You will see some notes back on the on LinkedIn. So thank you very much for today, but we will continue with spreading the ideas, spreading the concept, and hopefully it was appreciated by you guys as well. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Mark.
Wishing
Thank
you
you
a
very
great
much.
evening.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
It's very nice to meet you guys.